A federal judge in Illinois earlier this month ruled that a Mexican man who was living in the United States illegally had the constitutional right to own a firearm for self defense. In a ruling, United States District Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman dismissed charges against Herberto Arbajal Flores, who was arrested in 2020 for violating a federal law that prohibits undocumented immigrants from possessing a gun. Quote, Flores contends that he received and used the handgun solely for self protection and protection of his property during the time of documented civil unrest in the spring of 2020. The ruling set up a potential Supreme Court case to determine the extent of Second Amendment rights for an estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States. The High Court has issued a series of rulings over the past 15 years and have expanded gun rights. Quote, Congress would have to be a little bit more powerful here because there's no question that the Constitution applies to people who are not here legally. A former prosecutor in a Tuesday interview also stated, quote, the problem here is that you need to draw a statute more narrowly. Johnson Coleman, an appointee of former President Barack Obama, cited the summer 2020 when unrest and violence swept across Chicago and other United States cities amid protests over police brutality. Court documents show that Flores fired his handgun at moving vehicles when he believed looters were approaching his neighborhood after police warned of potential threat. He had no prior criminal record. Justice Clarence Thomas, in the court's majority opinion regarding one gun rights case, emphasized that the Second Amendment's protection extend to individual conduct, creating a presumption that applies regardless of legal status. However, Wu suggested that Congress could clarify the law to explicitly prohibit migrants from possessing guns. Also pointed out that the tension between federal and state law, noting the desperate rulings could lead to further legal complexities. A new bill taking effect in the coming weeks will allow for non-United States citizens to apply to become police officers. HB 3751 was passed by both chambers of the General Assembly earlier this year. The bill's language states that, quote, individuals who are not citizens but are legally authorized to work in the United States under federal law will be allowed to apply for jobs with police departments. An amendment to the bill will also allow those whose immigration actions have been deferred under the terms of DACA to apply for roles as police officers. While the bill generated plenty of criticism, Pritzker emphasized that the legislation would be limited to individuals who are legally allowed to work in the United States and who are legally allowed to possess firearms. Quote, we have the ability for people who are legally here in this country and DACA residents to apply for jobs as police officers. Representative Mary Miller and Lauren Boebert were among Republicans to condemn the bill, arguing that the legislation would allow individuals who enter the United States illegally to apply for positions. Former Chicago mayoral candidate Willie Wilson also opposed the bill, arguing that, quote, it defies common sense that non-citizens should be arresting and detaining legal citizens. Pritzker fired back at those criticisms, stating that it is a misrepresentation of the legalization language. Quote, I am tired of the right wing twisting things. They put it on Facebook. They tell lies. There are people out there that think we're just allowing anybody to become a police officer. That's just not accurate. The governor also cited other states, including California, that have similar legislation on the books and pointed out that thousands of legal permanent residents and DACA recipients are already serving in the United States military. The state of Illinois and Cook County have announced plans to allocate up to an additional $252 million to house, feed, and provide other services to illegal immigrants arriving in Chicago this year. Although Chicago's progressive mayor, Brandon Johnson, appears to be holding out on committing more funds to the ongoing crisis, at least for now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has pledged around $182 million, while Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle has committed up to $70 million more for the joint funding plan to ensure migrants sent to Chicago from Texas border shelter will have access to wraparound services and healthcare. It comes on top of the state committing $160 million in November to illegal immigrants to welcome shelter and independence. The commitment was in addition to the $478 million the state has spent since the start of the response. More than 35,000 migrants have been transported to Chicago and its suburbs over the past year and a half. Despite this influx, recent data shows that the city indicates a decline in the number of migrants staying at the shelters, with figures dropping to the lowest point in months. As of Tuesday, the number of migrants in shelters has fallen below 13,000, marking a decrease from peak observed in mid and early January, when the count reached nearly 15,000. Quote, with thousands of asylum seekers continuing to come to Chicago in desperate need of support, with Congress continuing to refuse to act, it is clear the state, county, and the city will have to do more to keep people safe. I'm thankful to President Preckwinkle for working with us to help close the budget gap and maintain critical services in the year ahead. The state's funding proposal will be part of the governor's upcoming fiscal year 2025 budget proposal to the Assembly. Meanwhile, Cook County, the most populous county in the state located in the upper northeastern section of Illinois, has already committed more than $100 million in its current fiscal year 2024 budget for new migrant costs, primarily for healthcare. And Preckwinkle has committed to working with Cook County commissioners to commit up to $70 million more for joint fund planning. Quote, as critical funding for the ongoing humanitarian crisis stalls in Congress, Cook County stands committed to the well-being of the region. We cannot wait for additional resources, and Cook County is proud to stand alongside Governor Pritzker in this joint funding plan, ensuring that the shelter capacity, healthcare, and wraparound services remain accessible to those in need. With a population of around 5.2 million people, Cook County is the second most populous county in the United States after Los Angeles County, based on the 2020 census figures. Illinois has a population of nearly 13 million. The county, through its health and hospital system, has been the primary healthcare provider for new migrants and has served for more than 25,000 patients, provided for the nearly 70,000 visits across the healthcare system. Visits include comprehensive medical exams and care, including physical exam, testing, lab services, standard vaccinations, complete school physicals, and pediatric vaccines, as well as behavioral health screenings and counseling, care coordination, and prescription medications. The county also provides follow-up care as needed. The joint funding announcement came after state, county, and city teams estimated that around $321 million is needed to maintain shelter and services this calendar year on top of previous committed funding. That would be around $70 million to be allocated by the city of Chicago and Mayor Johnson. When pressed by reporters on Thursday after the announcement, he stated that there are a number of matters that need to be worked through. Johnson mentioned that Pritzker pledged $76 million late last year to winterize an encampment which the state never came through on. He also stated that the city of Chicago is solely responsible for providing emergency temporary shelter. Undocumented residents will be issued a standard 4-year driver's license, which will serve as a valid form of identification and be issued instead of a current temporary visitor's driver's license. Quote, the legislation is a significant step in eliminating the barriers to opportunity in many undocumented immigrants face. Pritzker also stated that we're ensuring every eligible individual can obtain a driver's license, making our roads safer, decreasing stigma, and creating more equitable system for all. Secretary of State Giannis previously stated that temporary visitors' driver's license had become the scarlet letter of an individual's immigration status and exposed them to discrimination or immigration enforcement. Quote, this legislation allows immigrants to obtain standard driver's licenses and will serve as an authentic identification in Illinois. It will prevent the stigma, instances of discrimination, and problems that TVDLs have been known to cause while making the roads safer and enabling immigrants to use a standard license as identification for basic necessities like filing prescriptions or renting an apartment. So again, I just wanted to bring forth this information to showcase to people that there are a lot of things that are taking place as the whole world or the governments or whatever you want to sit up there and have it, had everybody in a sense looking up, had everybody looking this way and that way. These are some of the things that consistently are taking place and that people need to pay attention to. You got judges ruling that illegal immigrants can carry weapons. You have judges ruling that non-citizens can become police officers. You also have a state That's going to give 250 million more in taxpayer money to help illegal immigrants. Then on top of that, you have illegal undocumented immigrants that are going to be able to apply for a driver's license. And again, all of this is to, in a sense, benefit one group. Normally, whenever anything happens, a lot of people like to say, for example, Black people, whenever there are specific things such as allocated monies or what have you that are solely given to Black people, everybody screams, everybody cries, everybody gets in an anger and a rage, and they want to go on social media and sit up there and state that, oh, we're all Americans. Why is it that only this one group is getting this money allocated? Housing, education, this and that. Why are they the only ones? I thought we were all American. This is very divisive and yada, 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 right? But yet you have things like this that are happening in front of people's faces every single day. But yet, where's the outcry? Where's the screaming? Where's the tears? Where's all of the writing directly on social media when you literally see all of these monies, all of these laws, all of these rules getting passed in order to benefit literally one group of people? Amazing, isn't it? Funny how it tends to work out, right? But I guess if the immigrants were Black and they were coming directly over here and they were populating other people's cities and towns and states, I guess then there would be more of a rage and more of an outcry when you can visibly see and determine who one is. But like I said before, sooner rather than later, people are going to realize what it is that the United States government is specifically doing to America and to its people in order to solidify and to make sure that the old guard stays the old guard.